Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Asatara Satyashri Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder-Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhamma Ki Jai. Mathura Dhamma Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dhamma Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Śrīmati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesa Sunyavadi Paskatyade Shatarane. Can I have some water? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpachubhischa Kripasinduvyeva Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnava. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's June 10th, 2025 in Melbourne. We're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 9. The Dynasty of Amsuman, Text 6. Shri Bhagirata Uvacha Sadavo Nyatsina Santa Brahmista Lokapavana Harantyagam te nag sangyat Teshvaste yagabiddhari. Please chant. Sadhavo nyashina santa Brahmista lokapavana Harintyagam hinag sangat Teshvaste yagabiddhari. Shri Bhagavata Uvacha Sadhavo nyasina santa Brahmishta loka pavana Antyagad nat sangat Teshvaste yagabiddhari. Shri Bhagavata Uvacha Sadhavo nyasina shanta Brahmista loka pavana Harantyagam te nyasangat Teshvaste yagabiddhari. Ladies. Shri Bhagavata Uvacha Sadhavo nyasina shanta Brahmishta loka pavana Harantyagam sangat Teshaste yagabiddhari. Shri Bhagavata Uvacha. Bhagavata said, Sadhavaha, saintly persons, Nyasinaha, sannyasis, Shantaha, peaceful, free from material disturbances, Brahmistaha, expert in following the regulative principles of Vedic scripture, Lokapavanaha, who are engaged in delivering the entire world from a fallen condition, Haranti, shall remove, Agam, the reactions of sinful life, Te, of you, Mother Ganges, Angasangat, by bathing in the Ganges water, Teshu, within themselves, Ashte, there is, he, indeed, Agabit, the Supreme Personality who can vanquish all sinful activities. Harihi, the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's translation. Bhagavatta said, those who are saintly because of devotional service and are therefore in the renounced order, free from material desires, and who are pure devotees, expert in following the regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, are always glorious and pure in behavior, and are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted, for such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions. So this is in response. He's saying this in response to what? Okay, so this is Mother Ganges. I'm just repeating it for the people online. So that Mother Ganges had two conditions to come: that somebody would break her flow, and that she wouldn't become contaminated. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Mother Ganges is available to everyone for bathing. Therefore, not only will sinful persons bathe in the Ganges water, but in Haridwar and other holy places where the Ganges flows, saintly persons and devotees will also bathe in the waters of the Ganges. Devotees and saintly persons advanced in the renounced order can deliver even the Ganges. Now, it's interesting that Prabhupada makes a distinction. Devotees and saintly persons in the renounced order. So there could be saintly persons in the renounced order who are not devotees. Correct? Yes? They might be Brahmavadis. Okay. Tirti kurvanti tirani swantastena gadabrita. Bhagavatam 1:13-10. That's a very important verse in relationship to Vidura. Because saintly persons always keep the Lord within the core of their hearts, they can perfectly cleanse the holy places of all sinful reactions. Therefore, people in general must always respectfully honor saintly persons. It is ordered that as soon as one sees a Vaishnava or even a sannyasi, one should immediately offer respects to such a holy man. So here again we have the distinction. Prabhupada is saying a Vaishnava or a sannyasi. Just like when we go to Vrindavan, there are so many people dressed as sannyasis. We have no idea if they're actually sannyasis. But still we should offer respects to them. Now, of course, it's not always possible to like get off your rickshaw every time because there are so many. Yes? Who here has been to Vrindavan? Most of you. Okay. Are there a lot? Yes. Sometimes you're just, you're riding on a rickshaw for like 5 minutes and you see like 20 or 30 people who at least appear to be sannyasis. So you would never get to your destination if you got off the rickshaw and fell in the dust all the time. But at least one should be offering respects. It is ordered that as soon as one sees a Vaishnava or even a sannyasi, one should immediately offer respects to such a holy man. If one forgets to show respect in this way, one must observe a fast for that day. So this is something that I personally try to take very seriously. Can't say I'm perfect at it, but I really try to, especially in Vrindavan, I find it extremely difficult. You'd be offering respect sometimes constantly. You wouldn't be able to walk, but I do my best to do this. This is a Vedic injunction. One must be extremely careful to refrain from committing offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee or a saintly person. There are other methods of prayaschitta or atonement, but they are inadequate to cleanse one of sinful reactions. One can be cleansed of sinful reactions only by devotional service, as stated in regard to the history of Ajamila, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya, Vasudeva Parayana, Agam Duvanti Kartsnena, Nidam Eva Bhakshkara. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Bhagavatam 6:1-15. Now that doesn't mean that if we do something wrong, we shouldn't try to also rectify it. Right? If we do something wrong and say, well, I'll just engage in devotional service, then what are we doing? We're committing an offense to the holy name. So if I offend a devotee or I commit some sinful activity, and then I say I'm just going to sit down and chant all day, then that's an offense. So it's interesting because it's only by devotional service we can become fully free from offenses and sinful activities. But if we're using devotional service for that purpose, then that's actually an offense and it won't be effective. So if a person commits some crime, then they should turn themselves into the police and accept their punishment. You understand? Yes? I can't steal something from you and say, well, I'm just going to sit down and chant Hare Krishna. Would you be satisfied with that? Any of you? If I stole your wallet and I said, well, according to this purport, I don't have to do any atonement, I can just chant Hare Krishna, would you be okay with that? No. So that it's not, we shouldn't misuse like that. So what's the point of saying that it's only by devotional service. Only by devotional service is going to fry the seeds of these desires for sinful activities. So if I steal your wallet and I return it, I might still have a stealing propensity. You understand? So am I doing an atonement for you, or I'll return it, I'll pay you back the money, I'll apologize. That might not stop me from stealing again. But I have to do that as well. You follow? Does everyone understand that? So I have to do both. It's that atonement is insufficient. Now sometimes it's said we don't have to do any other kinds of atonement, but generally speaking, we actually do. If I offend a devotee, Bhaktivedanta Thakur says if I offend a devotee, I have to beg that devotee for forgiveness. And if that devotee doesn't forgive, then I have to serve that devotee. And if that doesn't work, then I can just sit down and chant. But I've done my best to try to atone. If one is under the protection of a devotee and sincerely renders service unto him, by this process of bhakti yoga, one is certainly able to counteract all sinful reactions. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam uvacha sadavo nyasina shanta brahmista lokapavanaha harantyagam nag sangat teshvaste yagabiddhari. Bhagavatam said, and again he's saying this to, who's he talking to? Mother Ganga. Those who are saintly because of devotional service and are therefore in the renounced order, free from material desires, and who are pure devotees, expert in following the regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, so that could be all one person and it could be groups of different people, are always glorious and pure in behavior and are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted. For such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions. They always keep in the core of their hearts. But isn't Krishna in everyone's heart? So what does that mean? Krishna's counteracting the sinful reactions, actually. But what does it mean the saintly persons, they keep Krishna in the core of their hearts, and therefore Krishna is counteracting the sinful reactions? What? Because they're always remembering him. Right? Yeah. So the Ganges River comes from the lotus feet of the Lord. Actually, the Ganges comes from beyond this universe. So she also appears in Chaitanya Leela. Does anyone know who she is in Chaitanya Leela? Okay, you know who she is in the Mahabharata, yeah? In the Mahabharata, she's who? The mother of Bhishma, yes. And in Chaitanya Leela, she's the daughter of Lord Nityananda, where she again marries Santanu. So she's a great devotee of the Lord. She's actually the personification of the spiritual water that's beyond the universe. So why is she worried about becoming contaminated? But still she's concerned like that. I might become contaminated. Just like if a devotee commits some sinful action, they don't say, well, I'm a devotee, I'm just going to chant Hare Krishna and I don't have to do anything else. So a devotee doesn't think, well, I can just go anywhere and I'm not going to become contaminated. There's some humility in the devotee. There's some humility in the devotee. The devotee is thinking, I have to be careful. We're going out in the Kali Yuga to preach or to work or to go to school or so many things in the world, and we shouldn't be thinking, well, I'm a devotee, I can't become contaminated. One should become very careful. So Ganga she's saying, I'm worried, I might become polluted. I'll be associating with so many sinful people. I might take on their qualities. I might take on their sins. I don't want this to happen to me. So if such an exalted personality who can't actually possibly become contaminated, Srila Rupa Goswami says that about the Ganga, that even if there's, dead bodies like if we touch a dead body, we're supposed to bathe, right? If we touch stool, we're supposed to bathe. We can go bathe in the Ganga, even though there might be stool and dead bodies in the Ganga. But the Ganga is not polluted. So this is her humility. Ganga actually cannot become polluted, but this is her humility. And so she's saying, I'm worried to come to Mrityuloka, to the earth planet, which is full of sinful people. And Bhagavatam says, don't worry, there's not only sinful people will bathe in you, but saintly persons will bathe in you also, and they'll purify you. You know, even the Lord talks about how he's purified by the saintly persons. I always found it amusing when he talks to Nalakuvera and Manigriva, and he said, you are so fortunate because Narada Muni, because you saw Narada Muni. Now, it's funny that Krishna doesn't say, you're so fortunate that you're seeing me. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say, you're so fortunate that you've seen me and you've touched me. He said, you're so fortunate you've seen Narada. When Krishna tells the gopis, you know, my head's hurting, can you give me some dust from your feet to purify me? So Krishna is also feeling that the devotees are purifying him. Well, so we actually have a burden, most of us, unless some of you are Nityasiddhas, come from the spiritual world. But even if that's the case, you may feel humble like Mother Ganga. So we have some burden of sin. We've all committed some sin in our life. Has everybody here done something wrong? Even the kids? I'm sure even the kids have done something wrong, right? We've told lies. Everybody here has told a lie in their life? You can be honest about the fact that you've told a lie. Okay? I'm sure we've taken something that wasn't ours. I remember when I was 5, and the school that I went to had like a little kitchen set, you know, little play set. And for the plates, cups, and spoons, they had this little wooden spoon and fork and knife. And I had a set just like it at home, but I was missing the spoon. So I still remember this because I felt so guilty about it for so many years, you know. And I never brought the spoon back. I just felt bad about it. So, you know, I took the little wooden spoon from school to my home to finish my own set. And every time I played with it, I just felt bad. You know, so we've done things like this. We've said nasty things to people. Everybody here said nasty things to people that they regret. Even people that we love? Yeah. Have we sometimes failed to follow through on what we said we were going to do? I'm definitely going to do this, and we didn't do it. Actually, I'm just remembering someone said to me, I will definitely bring this, and I don't know if they brought it. I don't think they did. So we say like that, and then we forget, or we just think that something else is important, or whatever. What to speak of if we've done major sins? Hopefully none of us have done a major sin in this lifetime. But maybe we've done major sins in previous lifetimes. Maybe we've actually committed really heavy-duty sinful activities in other lifetimes. Maybe some of us here have done it, or someone listening to this class has done it in this lifetime. And we have impressions from these activities. So what are we going to do? These sinful activities, they involve us in the law of karma. Like, I hope I don't have to take birth again to return the spoon that I never returned when I was a kid. You know? But they do, they leave us with a karmic debt. And they impede our ability to advance in Krishna consciousness. They cloud our consciousness. They involve us in the modes of ignorance and passion. This morning I was hearing Prabhupada say, as long as we're in Tamagun and Rajagun, it's going to be very difficult to advance in spiritual life. So what are we going to do? So here the solution is the saintly persons. So we're going to look at the power of the saintly persons. And then we're going to look at how we should deal with saintly persons, which Prabhupada talks a bit about in this purport. And finally, we're going to look at something that Prabhupada does not talk about in this purport, and that is how we can become saintly persons. So the power of the saintly persons. So I talk about this a lot because it made a big impression on me. And that's how in Madhurya Kadambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when he's asked, how does somebody start their Krishna consciousness? Where does it come from? And he says, well, the Lord is neutral. He doesn't get involved. He's just, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, as a super soul, he's just the witness, he's just the observer. But the devotees are not neutral. Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita that the devotees of the Lord are more merciful than the Lord. So the devotees go and give Krishna consciousness to others, even at great personal risk. We are all supposed to be like Mother Ganga. She's a little nervous about this whole thing, but she's saying, I'll come to purify the world. Just make sure that I don't get contaminated. But the devotees are very merciful. I was thinking how, we go out on Harinam to the most degraded parts of the city at the most degraded times of the week and the day, because that's when we're going to find the most people. Someone was trying to argue with me the other day that I shouldn't be engaging on social media platforms because the companies running these platforms are unethical. And I said, but that's where the people are. And I was thinking about this. I was recently in London, and unfortunately I wasn't able to go on the Saturday night Harinam. I really, really wanted to go. But I had other obligations. And I felt like my heart was being torn in two. If you go out on the Saturday evening Harinam, you're going into like the nightclub district on a Saturday night. The majority of the people there are engaging in meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. Right there. I remember one time when I was one of my first visits to London, when I heard, we're going to have a Harinam party in the middle of the day, and not understanding London weather, I wasn't dressed for cold and rainy in the middle of the summer. So I get to the place and it's cold and rainy, and I think, well, we're just going to go back to the temple, right? And they're like, in London, if you give up when it's cold and rainy, you'd never do anything. So, we had, and Mahavishnu Swami, the one with the hat? So he was leading the kirtan. It was incredible Harinam kirtan. One of my most amazing spiritual experiences in the Hare Krishna movement. So anyway, we're having this wonderful, wonderful Harinam where London appeared to me like we were in the spiritual world. And then it was time to go back to the temple, but it was really raining. So what he did was we would get under awnings and we would go into the shops. We went back to the temple by weaving in and out of the shops between our way from the main Harinam place to the temple. And the only shops that wouldn't let us in were the gambling places and the liquor shops and the meat places. They would stop us, but every other place let us in. I found that interesting. And we're taking the whole Harinam party through the whole store, like we were going through the aisles of the store, having kirtan. It was pretty far out. But my point is, we're going there. We're going where, we were going past the gambling places and the meat places and the liquor shops, and there are places, I'm sure, selling, pornography and things. But we went there, because that's where the people are. If we just took our Harinam party out into the forest, I guess Mahaprabhu can get the elephants and the deer to dance in the forest. But we're going to where there's sinful activities. So we're doing this because the mercy of the devotees is actually greater, Prabhupada says, than the mercy of the Lord. And the Lord's mercy follows the mercy of the devotees. You can think that the devotees, it's like we're creating a channel for the Lord's mercy to flow through. It's like we're putting the irrigation pipes We're laying the irrigation pipes, and the Lord's mercy is flowing through us. Just like when, in 1974, when we were meeting with Prabhupada in Chicago, and my father said, I'm not coming to the temple to see Krishna. He said, I'm coming to see my daughter and son-in-law. Is that all right? And Prabhupada says, yes. He said, they are loving Krishna, and you are loving them, so two things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. So that's how it works. Because the devotees, like here, Bhagirath is saying, because the devotees are carrying the Lord in their heart, that doesn't mean no one else has the Lord in their heart. But it means the devotees actually are feeling this affection. Like Narada Muni says, as soon as I chant the name of the Lord sits in the lotus of my heart. So the Lord sits on the lotus of our relationship with Him in the heart. So therefore, when the devotees come, they bring the Lord with them. I mean, sometimes you actually see devotees are carrying around a deity with them wherever they go. Sometimes devotees have like a little bag they're wearing, with their Shila in it, or you sometimes, again, you especially see this in Vrindavan, where people have on their head, they're carrying around on their head their deities. But we all have the deity of the Lord in the heart. Now also, the problem is that we are offenders. Even in this life, we haven't committed any terrible sinful acts for which we would be incarcerated. We're all essentially offenders to the Lord because we're trying to enjoy the Lord's property as our own. Therefore, the great devotees will say, I'm the most sinful of all sinners. You ever wonder about that? Why are they saying that? Are they like serial killers and arsonists? And, that's not what they mean. But just like here, I'm staying at the temple. If I say, oh, that's a very nice chair, I think I'll take it with me, So that's like what we say. We come to this material world and we say, oh, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine to enjoy, this is mine to use as I want. And we don't see the Lord everywhere. We intentionally don't want to see Him. So because we're offenders, we've lost the right to approach the Lord directly. Just like if somebody's been really nasty to you over a period of time, if they've stolen your stuff, if they ignore your feelings, will you want to see them? No. But let's say you had some friend who came to you and said, hey, this person, they're really trying to get it together. Are you willing? Then you might agree. A situation like that actually happened to me. There was one devotee. I didn't even know this person. I'd never met them. And I don't know why she hated me. I have no idea why she hated me. But somehow she hated me. And I was scheduled to give a class in one of our big, important temples. And she was writing to all the temple authorities saying that I was a terrible person. And I was like, why does this person hate me? I don't even know her. I've never had any dealings with her. I've never met her. I couldn't figure it out. And it was so bad that if I saw her from a distance, I'd walk around to avoid seeing her. And then I found out that we had a mutual friend. And our mutual friend was somebody that I have great respect for. And I thought, well, if this person who I really love and respect likes this other person, there must be something of value in this other person that I can't see. Does everyone understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to say this without revealing at all who these people are. So I decided that, well, because my friend likes this lady, there must be something there. So when she would send me these nasty emails, they were really nasty. So I decided I would start to respond. And I wouldn't respond to the nastiness. I ignored the nastiness, and I would just say something nice. And after about 6 months of my doing this, the person started to soften a little bit. And eventually I actually met them. I mean, we never became best buddies or anything. But we became friendly. And then she stopped criticizing me, and she actually apologized to me, which I did not expect at all. And she started actually going to the authorities and encouraging them to work with me instead of criticizing me. So that was very interesting. But my point is that I would never have looked at her. I would never have had anything to do with her if it wasn't for the fact that we had a mutual friend. So Krishna's like, why should I be with someone who's offensive? I brought up the other day how Satchidananda Maharaj will say, it's not just do I trust God, but does he trust me? Can he trust me? Am I going to behave? How do I behave with the deity? How do I behave with the holy name? How do I behave with prasadam? How do I behave with the scriptures? Krishna's seeing, how are we dealing with him? So the great devotees can, what would you say? Advocate for us. Hey, please accept this person. Srila Prabhupada talks about how Srimati Radharani does this. She goes to Krishna and says, this is a nice devotee. They're even nicer than I am. Yeah? Lord Nityananda begging Lord Chaitanya, please forgive Madhai. Please forgive him. Also, even as we advance in bhakti, the devotees are our shelter. They are our ashraya. When we study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we say that in order to experience rasa with the Lord, we have to not only have the Lord as the object of our devotion, but we also have to take shelter of devotees who have a similar type of devotion to what we want to cultivate. That grows our bhakti. Just like husband and wife, they grow in their love for their children by seeing how the other parent associates with the child. The husband grows in his love for the children by seeing the wife's love for the child. The wife grows in the love of the children by seeing the husband's love for the child. When we have groups of friends, we grow in friendship by seeing each other's friendship. And we get trained in our relationship with the Lord by the other devotees. And then, of course, we have Krishna's wonderful verse, Mad Chitta Magata Pranam Bodayantas Praspram Katayat Tatstamam Nityam Tusyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. So we all experience this in the Hare Krishna movement if we're behaving nicely and not just talking prajalpa with each other. But when we talk about Krishna with each other, don't we feel enlivened? And I think that there's very few things that compare to the pleasure of talking about Krishna with the devotees. It can go on and on and on. We regretfully stop to do other things. But whenever we're discussing about Krishna and Krishna consciousness and deep philosophy with the devotees, that's our great pleasure. Tusyanti cha ramanti cha. It fills us with satisfaction and happiness. And the devotees teach us the process of devotion at the higher levels as the ashraya, but even for the beginners. And even Mahaprabhu comes as a devotee to teach. Otherwise, how would we know? Just through logic and observation, we can understand there must be a God. I was reading about this one man who went as a Christian missionary to this tribe in the Amazon, and he actually gave up his faith because they didn't believe in God at all. They didn't have any creation story. They just lived completely in the present. They said, the river, it's just here. The mountains are just here. The sun is just here. Why do we have to think about where it came from? And he decided that he wanted to be happy like these people and forget about God. It was kind of interesting. And I was thinking, yeah, but they were happy like animals are happy. Just being in the moment. I mean, we should be in the moment, but we should be in the moment connected with Krishna, not that we're just in the moment like a dog is just living in the moment. Huh? So we can understand, anybody with a little sense can understand, if there's a river here, it's not that it's just here. Where'd the river come from? I don't know, it's just here. Why ask that question? Everything had to come from someplace, and everything's managed by someplace, by someone. You come here to the temple, you see it's clean, and the things are going on to schedule. That means there's some management. Somebody's managing things. You drive down the street, the traffic lights are turning off and on at a set time. There's a manager. Somebody must have built this building. Somebody must be maintaining it. So we can understand that by logic, but I can't understand how to connect with the creator and the maintainer just by logic. Like, I can understand somebody painted this picture. That I can understand. I can understand the picture didn't paint itself. And I can understand it must be have been painted by somebody with intelligence. But who the artist is, I don't know. And even if it's signed, I wouldn't necessarily know, well, who that is, or how to contact them. So how would I find that out? I'd have to ask, oh, does anyone know this person? Does anyone have their contact info? Does anyone know how they want to be contacted? Like I have a friend who says, I only want to be contacted by SMS. I don't want to use anything by Meta anymore. They're corrupt. Okay. And I have my son who works for Microsoft. He says, just contact me on Teams, which is the Microsoft platform. As there, And then I have one godbrother who doesn't have a mobile phone, so the only way you can contact him is by email. How do you contact this person? And he just wrote me, he said, how do I get in touch with so-and-so? I email him, he doesn't answer. And I wrote, well, he doesn't answer email. He only answers WhatsApp. And I'm thinking, that's going to be hard for you because you don't have a phone, So my point is, if you want to contact someone, you have to know someone and they have to tell you how to contact them, correct? Or some people have to say, look, the only way to contact them is you've got to go to where they live and find them. So I know people like that. Unless you actually are right there face to face, they won't reply. You can write them 100 messages. So the devotee knows how to contact Krishna. He knows his contact info. He'll share his contact info. He'll tell you his time zone. You got to know that too, right? If you want to contact somebody, you have to know what time to contact them. I don't know if any of you, like me, have friends all over the world and deal with people all over the world, but I finally had to start putting my phone in airplane mode at night. Hare Krishna, Urmila. It's about 3 minutes after midnight where I am, Oh, sorry. So the devotees tell us what's the proper times, what's the proper place, what's the proper method. Like Prabhupada's telling us, rise early in the morning. Of course, we can contact Krishna at any time. Like I had one devotee tell me, my work schedule means I can't chant early in the morning. I don't know what to do. I'm not chanting. I'm like, well, you can chant in the evening. But like we're told, with Gayatri mantras, has to be a certain time. We can more easily contact Krishna in a holy place. What mantras to chant? Don't just make up a mantra. You can say, well, like that, Nitai Gaur Radhasham, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. It sounds good, it's all made up of the holy names, but Prabhupada says that's not going to work. Like if you take someone's phone number and you mix up the numbers, and you say, well, it's all the right numbers. So we also need the saintly persons to give us the process of devotion. And they give us a process of purification. Now, it is possible just to get purified by, Bhaktivedanta Thakur says in his commentary to Manashiksha, just by embracing the devotees, taking the dust of their feet, taking the water that have washed their feet. But just like we said in the beginning, we don't want to sin on the strength of chanting. We don't want to be a rascal and say, well, I'll just touch devotees' feet. Basically, we should become purified by the instructions, just like we say every day. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from your lotus mouth. That doesn't just mean, it does mean that if you listen to Prabhupada's lectures, and we're so lucky in Kali Yuga, we have recordings of lectures. One of the benefits of being in Kali Yuga. Just by hearing Prabhupada's voice, just by touching the book. But it doesn't mean we should just do that. We should also follow Prabhupada's instructions that are coming out of his lotus mouth. Do you understand? It's not just I'm going to say, well, I'm just going to hear the vibration of the sound, but I'm not going to do anything that he says. Yes. And actually we could say, legitimately, we could say that the entire process of bhakti is one of deepening association with devotees. As explained by Lord Kapila Dev. Satam prasango manavirya samvado bhavanti ritkarna rasayanam kata tajyosanad atva pravargavartmani shraddha ratir bhakti anukramishati. So he's giving shraddha ratir bhakti anukramishati, kind of a synopsis of shraddha to prema by the devotees. So first the devotees give us their mercy. They become like a pipe through which the water of the mercy of the Lord flows. They teach us the process of devotion, the process of purification. They teach us how to get in touch with Krishna. They themselves exemplify the process of devotion. So how should we treat them? As Prabhupada talks about in this purport, how should we treat them? And Prabhupada's emphasizing we should offer obeisances to them. Especially when you see a sannyasi, offer obeisances, and if you don't, then you have to do what? Fast for the day. Yes. As I said, sometimes in Vrindavan I find that particularly difficult to actually do all the time. Yes? It's like there's a sannyasi, or there's another one, or there's another one, or there's another one, or there's another one. There's a whole crowd of 20. And, you know, and I'm just, after a while, I'm just going, yes, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yes, yes. Obeisances to all of you, everywhere. But we also, Srila Rupa Goswami says that we associate with the devotees through the 6 loving exchanges, which are really just 3 things, and giving and taking for each. So give the devotees prasadam. Please give them what they like, in the quantities that they like. Don't put the chutney on top of the sweet rice. I was just in a temple where they took all the maha and put it in one big container and mixed it all together. And I said, you're violating Srila Rupa Goswami's instructions at the end of the Northern Ocean of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because you're improperly combining rasas. I said, when you improperly combine rasas, then we don't get rasa anymore. We get a ras. What do we get? A ras abas. We get a shadow. I said, so we don't get a real taste. We get a shadow of a taste. Right? You know, lettuce mixed with your burfi and things like this. And we should accept prasad from the devotees. Remember, it's not just a spoon serving us. It's a person. It's a cook. We should give gifts to the devotees, and again, please give them gifts as much as you can that they would like. Like right before I came here to Australia, like the day before I was going to get on the plane to Australia, these devotees gave me a big basket, like this big, folks, a big basket full of herbal tea, boxes of herbal tea, cow dung ghee lamp holders. What else did they give me there? Lots of bottles of different oils and cosmetics, a whole big basket. And it's like, when they gave it to me, I said, you realize I'm leaving tomorrow for Melbourne, right? Like, what am I going to do with all? I had to just, and I'm thinking, and the Melbourne authorities would never let me bring in a cow dung ghee wick holder. Can you imagine? What's this in your suitcase? Oh, it's a cow dung. They'd say, $400, please. So, you know, try to give people gifts, and we should be receiving the gifts from the devotees and then revealing our mind in confidence. That doesn't mean that we vomit our garbage all over people. It means that we should have some talks that are beneficial to them, and of course hearing their confidences. And we should do this according to the relationship we have with the devotees. As Srila Rupa Goswami says in the next verse, those who are chanting, we respect in our mind. Those who are initiated in worshiping the deity, we should offer obeisances to. People often tell me not to offer my obeisances to the devotees because I'm a senior. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Srila Rupa Goswami says that we should offer our obeisances to anyone who's initiated in worshiping the deity. I don't care how senior you are. We should never become so senior that we think, and I'm not really senior. Srila Satchidananda Maharaj told me, always think you're a beginner in bhakti. So I'm lucky if I'm even a beginner in bhakti. And then those who are superior to us, we should serve them. And we should respect anybody who's worshiping the Lord, even if they're in other faiths. Sometimes Prabhupada would talk about not offending the devotees means don't offend Jesus and Mohammed and their followers. So, and Bhaktivedanta Thakur talks about this a lot. Otherwise, we commit the mad elephant offense of thinking, you know, because I'm in such a high religion, therefore I can look down on everybody else. So we should respect all the saintly persons. And we have examples in the Shastra of those who don't do this. Like Indra is enjoying and his guru Brahaspati comes in and he ignores him. Indra sees him, comes in, and he ignores him, and Brihaspati just leaves, and then Indra can't even find him to apologize anymore. And this other story from also Indra again. This is from 8.5.15.16. I want to read a little bit from the purport. It is described that while Durvasa Muni was passing on the road, he saw Indra on the back of his elephant and was pleased to offer Indra a garland from his own neck. Indra, however, being too puffed up, took the garland, and without respect for Durvasa Muni, he placed it on the trunk of his carrier elephant. The elephant, being an animal, could not understand the value of the garland, and thus the elephant threw the garland between its legs and smashed it. Seeing this insulting behavior, Durvasa immediately cursed Indra to be poverty-stricken, bereft of all material opulence. Thus the demigods, afflicted on one side by the fighting demons and on the other by the curse of Durvasa, lost all the opulence of the three worlds. So it seems like a little thing. You know, someone gives me a garland and I don't respect it. That means I'm not respecting the devotee. Of course, we have the sons of Kuvera who didn't cover themselves in front of Narada. So many examples of offenses against the devotees. So we should have the 6 loving exchanges, offer obeisances, treat with respect, and not be offensive. And the last thing I want to look at, which Prabhupada does not discuss here in this purport, is that we should also become saintly persons. I always like to talk about a letter that a disciple wrote Srila Prabhupada where he signed it, "Your eternally useless servant." So that's not pleasing. Srila Prabhupada, I'm always going to be a useless servant. I mean, why would that please anybody? But we should also become a saintly person. And we should also become a holy place. We should also be carrying the Lord within our heart. We should also be realizing the presence of the Lord so we can purify holy places. And in today's purport, Prabhupada refers to Bhagavatam 1.13.10, which is where Vidura is praised for being a walking tirtha, a walking holy place. And there's a lecture Prabhupada gives on that verse that I really like, that I would like to quote from. This was given in Geneva on June 1st, 1974. He says, the Hare Krishna mantra chanting means keeping Krishna always within your heart. So the same principle we're talking about today, that the saintly persons are carrying the Lord within the heart. It is not expensive at all. You haven't got to make a very exalted throne for Krishna. You can imagine. What's the word Prabhupada uses? Imagine. What's the word? Imagine. You can imagine that, quote, in my heart, I have placed now a very diamond throne and Krishna is sitting, unquote. That is accepted. It is. Actually, it becomes. Even within the mind, you think that, quote, I have kept one diamond throne, one very costly throne, because Krishna is coming. He will sit down here, unquote. That is not false. That is a fact. So it's interesting. Prabhupada says you can imagine, and then he says it is a fact. So you create such situation within your heart. Quote, now Krishna has seated. Let me wash his feet with the Ganges water, Yamuna water. Now change his dress to a first-class, costly garments. Then I decorate with ornaments. Then I give him for eating. You can simply think of this. This is meditation. Swanta stena gadabrata. It is so nice thing. Now remember, Prabhupada started talking about this when he said the Hare Krishna mantra chanting means. That's how he started this. So he's talking about chanting Hare Krishna. Anywhere you can sit down and think that Krishna is sitting in your heart and you are receiving in so nice way. They are not false, they are also fact. It is so easy. So Prabhupada said it wasn't expensive, and now he's saying it's easy. So here is if you simply carry Krishna within your heart, always in a very devotional service, exalted devotional service, and chant Hare Krishna and think of Krishna, wherever you go, you will purify the whole place. So that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to chant Hare Krishna and meditate on Krishna within the heart and actually carry the Lord within the heart, and then we also become a holy place. We become a tirtha. So the meaning of tirtha is the literal meaning is a crossing place. Like, you know, sometimes a river gets a narrow part. It's called a strait, S-T-R-A-I-T, It's called a strait. So I used to live in Detroit. Detroit means the strait. It's a place where the river comes close together. You can easily cross. So a tirtha is a crossing place. By the way, tirthas can be temporary, unlike dhams. The dham is eternally the dham. But you can create a tirtha anywhere. A tirtha is a place where you can easily cross to the spiritual nature. So you've created a tirtha here. Before you built this temple here, it wasn't a dham. But now it's a tirtha. We can create a tirtha in our home. We set up an altar. We set up a sacred space. You can also think of a tirtha in our modern day like a place where you can get connected to the internet. Right? The tirtha is a place you can get connected to the spiritual world. So you think like that. You get in a place where you can find an internet connection. And we can make our own phone a hotspot, correct? And other people can create through our phone. So we should become a hotspot for people to connect to the Lord. We should become actually like a walking tirtha. So, we might think if we were asked, who are the most powerful people in the world? So we might think, well, politicians, they're pretty powerful. They can command armies. They can command trillions of dollars. They can make decisions that affect millions of people. Or we might think maybe the really wealthy business people, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, we might think, well, they're the most powerful people. Or we might think the great scientists like Einstein or, people who are, but really the most powerful people are the saintly persons. The power of the politicians, the power of the wealthy, the power of the highly intelligent, they're really, in the grand scheme of things, they can't really change the world. They may make some temporary change that seems very significant at the time, but everything eventually goes back to where it was before. The empires crumble into the dust, and some archaeologist has to unearth them. We're walking on top of other empires that are, that have just gone into the dirt. All their accomplishments, their names are not even remembered. But the saintly persons, they actually change people's destiny. They can override people's karma. Take even very sinful people to ultimate liberation. And these saintly persons may appear to have material power in the world. They may also be great kings or wealthy persons or highly intelligent persons, or they may not. They may be very simple persons doing some humble, they may be the ones, washing the pots, sweeping the roads. But wherever they are, they're the most powerful persons because they can actually bring us in touch with the Lord. So we should certainly respect them and get their mercy and not offend them. And we should also become saintly persons. And the greatest way actually to please the saintly persons is if we become a saintly person. Yes. So maybe we could think about how we can treat, we have, sometimes we become complacent in our society of devotees and we forget that everyone we're dealing with is a saintly person. Is that easy to forget? And we just see whatever their faults are, or either we imagine their faults or their actual faults, but they're not very important. It's like the spots on the moon. You don't look at the beautiful full moon and go, ugh. So sometimes we forget that we're dealing with saintly persons. Even the Ganges River, even the Ganges that's washing the feet of the Lord that comes from the spiritual world, who appears as the daughter of Lord Nityananda, the mother of Bhishma, she's valuing the saintly persons. So questions, comments, additions, subtractions, corrections? Yes, Prabhu.
Tirtha, I just thought of is ford.
Ford, yes. A place you can ford the river.
Yeah, like Oxford.
Yes, Oxford. It's the place where the oxen could cross the river. Yes. A ford or a strait, yes. A place where the river becomes very narrow and very easy to cross. So a tirtha is where the distance between us, the metaphorical, not literal, geographical, but the metaphorical distance between us and the spiritual reality becomes very narrow, very easy to cross.
In Vrindavan, you see a lot of sannyasis, you're not even sure whether they're sannyasis or not.
No, you're not, but I just err on the side of caution. I just offer my respects to them anyway.
Everyone.
Well, I don't want to fast for the day.
Especially when the sannyasis accompanied by their wives.
I just don't want to fast for the day, so I just like, all respects to you, all respects to you. I don't need to decide who they are. Like, I'm not going to take instruction from all of them, but at least I want to offer them respect.
And it's interesting what Prabhupada says, Vaishnavas, and he says that Vaishnavas are renounced and they're just as good as a sannyasi. So that means we need to be paying obeisances to the devotees all of the time. Such special people.
Yeah, but of course we also have to get something done.
Yeah, so the idea is to be respectful and
yes, to be
appreciative.
Respectful. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we should also be paying respect. I mean, sometimes I really do wonder if I'm, sort of edging up to the 2,000 obeisances to devotees a day, because especially in some places where everybody keeps coming up and offering obeisances, and then you're always offering obeisances. We start counting how many obeisances. The Goswamis would sometimes, they took some vows like that. I'm going to offer obeisances to so many Vaishnavas every day. Yes. Microphone is migrating over to your side. Ah, there we go.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
When you mentioned about offering obeisances to devotees, for some reason this story came to my mind, which I haven't shared in public ever.
Oh, boy. You sure you want to do it now?
Yes.
Okay.
So in 1999, when I was living in Vrindavan, and Prana Prabhu and I decided to get engaged and then enter into the Grihastha ashram. And one day he came to me and he got down on the floor and said, "Please accept my humble obeisances." And if whoever knows Prana Prabhu, he's very senior and he's had so many decades of teaching and he's very much respected by everyone. And I was feeling like, oh my goodness, this wonderful devotee is like offering his obeisances to me. So immediately I got down and offered my obeisances as well. And then when he got up, he said to me, we're engaged and you're going to be my wife, but you belong to Krishna. You don't belong to me. Krishna's within your heart and you're Krishna's devotee. And he said, I really felt like I have to come and offer my humble obeisances to you. And that really touched me. And I just feel, he's gone now. So, I just thought it would be a lovely thing to share of an example of a devotee, like a senior devotee, wanting to offer his obeisances to, someone like me. I mean, who am I? But he was such a gentleman and so Krishna conscious all the time. And in everything that he did very thoughtfully. And so I guess he was, seeing into the future that we would, be together as husband and wife, but the purpose of that would be to serve Srila Prabhupada and the ISKCON society, Yeah, so I thought I would share
Don't
that
make
too.
me cry sitting on the Vyasa-san. Thank you. Actually, Gorkashore Das Babaji would give that kind of instruction to people who wanted to get married. Yeah, that's very nice. Well, we should see like that. Actually, we should see that Krishna's and ultimately the great devotees, they see that everyone's a devotee. They think everyone's a devotee except for me. And I should respect all living entities. But what to speak of someone who's actively worshiping the Lord? And it's interesting, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's describing the Sarvagya astrologer, and he talks about the different ways in which there's impediments in other paths of yoga, in Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Dhyan Yoga. And he talks about it metaphorically, like that in Dhyan Yoga there's a snake, and in Karma Yoga there's the wasps, and in Jnana Yoga there's the yakshas. And it's not in the same section, but later on he talks about how in bhakti the problem is a mad elephant, a crazy. We don't know what that means in Melbourne, like mad elephants. Elephants I think they're the only mammal where the males have heightened. They're always capable of reproducing, but they have a time of heightened reproductive activity called must, where they go completely nuts. And elephants who are kept in captivity, at the first sign of a bull elephant going into must, they usually don't give it any food or water to stop the process, which can last for a few weeks. But a bull elephant in must, they'll hurt their trainer even. They're completely out of control. So the mad elephant offense is when we think my devotion is better than yours. We don't see devotion in others. It's tied to sectarianism. Like if you see what's the main problem in religions is that they'll think my religion is better than your religion, or my branch of my religion is better than your branch of my religion, and they'll actually kill each other over these things. They'll actually torture each other and kill each other instead of respecting here's another person of faith and here's another person of belief. So we should be very, very careful to always. Not that we have to intimately associate with everybody. I'm not going to intimately associate with all the apparent sannyasis in Vrindavan. But at least to show respect to everyone. Here's somebody who at least ostensibly, externally is trying to love God. What to speak of showing respect to those who are actually following Lord Chaitanya. What to speak of showing respect to those who are actually following Srila Prabhupada. What to speak of showing respect to those who we work with. And it's hard because familiarity breeds contempt, and it's so easy when we work with people to forget that these are really saintly people. Maybe we remember when they pass away and we go to their funeral, but maybe we can remember when we're dealing with them in day-to-day life also. And that Krishna loves them. And even those who may appear very difficult, like that lady who was very difficult in my life. But once I got to know her, she never stopped being an interesting person. But once I got to know her, I found that we could be friends. You follow? And that I could respect her as also a Vaishnava. Yes?
You mentioned that we should offer all respects to the saintly people.
Yes.
There's another thing that we should ourselves become saintly.
Yes.
So, what would be the attributes that a saintly person? How can, like you're chanting Hare Krishna, and then we say that as soon as someone starts chanting Hare Krishna, becomes a devotee.
Well, we should offer at least respects in the mind to anybody who's at least making some effort to know and love God. We should offer respects in the mind.
Yeah. Now my question is that, how can, what should I do for myself to become a saintly person?
How should you become a saintly person? It looks to me like you're working on it.
Hare Krishna.
You're seeing the Lord, you're hearing the Shastra, you're hanging around with all these other saintly persons, you're about to take prasadam. All sounds pretty good to me. Just keep going. Do something for the mission. Do something for the mission. Don't just think about your own advancement. Prabhupada says if you want to become recognized very quickly by Krishna, then you should actually spread love of God. If I become a conduit, if I become a pipeline for the river of Krishna's mercy, then I might get some of it too. I might get wet too. You follow?
Yes, sir.
So give spiritual life to others, give Krishna consciousness to others. There was one devotee a while ago that was saying to me, well, I'm so entangled in my work and my family, but I figured out I could retire and I could just go to the Dham and I could just work on my sadhana. And I said, how old are you? He's like 30-something. And I said, that's when you're like 90. I said, if you can financially retire now, great, but spend your time then doing something for the mission. Don't just think about yourself. For most of us, there will come a time that we can't do much for the mission anymore. That does happen to most people. Our bodies break down, sometimes even our mind breaks down, and there's not much we can do but just sit and chant Hare Krishna in the Dham. But unless and until that time comes, if you want to become a saintly person, help others to become saintly persons. Do something for the mission. Do something for Srila Prabhupada's mission. Do something for Mahaprabhu's mission.
Thank you.
All right? Okay, one last thing, and then we really should stop. It's already almost 9.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Thank you for the nice class. Mataji, you said that we should take the association of devotees to be able to learn how to take shelter of Krishna. But when we have sadhu sangha at the temple, at home, at schools, we tend to take it for granted. So how can we conduct ourselves in a way that we can get the maximum?
Well, we don't take it for granted. Do you go to a regular school? So can you see the difference between materialistic people and devotees? That helps. That helps. Sometimes it's nice to get out of the temple and go into the world and do something in the world and go, oh wow, I really have it good. I mean, my family's not there, they've all passed away. But I remember visiting like non-devotee family members, and every time that would happen, I'd think, wow, I'm really happy that I'm in this path of spirituality. Or when I worked in the world, when I worked as an assistant principal in a government school, and I'm thinking, well, these people don't even pretend to be humble. It was funny because I'd always had this attitude about devotees, like our humble talk, oh, I'm so fallen, Prabhu. I was like, oh, come on. I'm like, get real here. But then, working out in the world, I'm like, they don't even do that. Everybody just assumed that they were great. They all assumed that they had no inner flaws at all. Like, yeah, I might have made a mistake, but like, I'm a perfect person. And I'm thinking, give me the devotees with their humble talk. I started appreciating it. So that helps. And then hearing these things from the Shastra, that's why we're supposed to keep hearing and keep being reminded, oh yeah, even the Ganges river wants the devotees. And just, to keep hearing. Is that all right?
Thank you.
And if you catch your mind going, oh, these devotees are driving me crazy. First of all, remember, probably not you, but at least I remember that I also drive people crazy. And I'm also annoying. And probably, sometimes I know I'm annoying, but sometimes I don't even know that I'm annoying. Sometimes I think I'm just being normal, and other people are like, oh, that Urmila. So if I hope and pray that people tolerate me, then I also have to be tolerant. You understand? I mean, the example's given, even if all the camphor's out of a pot, you can still smell the camphor. So even if someone is in the process, there may still be some residual something. And then we all have our different personalities that has nothing to do with purified or unpurified. Sometimes different people's personalities rub us the wrong way. And something to remember in our international society is we have cultural differences. I think Indian and Australian culture are pretty different. I think so. And if we're not aware of cultural differences, we may attribute these differences to personality flaws. So in pretty much every culture of the world, people want to show respect to one another, but how we show it is very different. Yeah? A very, very simple example is in America, the way you show respect to people when you serve them food is you only give them what they want in the quantity that they want. You can ask them one time if they want more of something, and if they say no, you don't give it to them. And that's how we show respect. But in India, it's not like that. In India, it goes the other direction. So in India, the person who's eating shows respect to the server, because you don't know, they might not have enough food, you see? And so you don't ask for any more, because if you ask for something and they don't have it, then they're going to feel very embarrassed. So you don't ask. You can ask indirectly by saying, this is really good. And that's encoded to, that means you want more. And it took me a long time to learn this. Because in America, if I say this is really good, it just means this is really good. It doesn't have some hidden meaning behind it. So in America, the way it works is the host is trying to make sure the guest is respected. In India, the guest is trying to make sure the host is respected by not asking for something that they may not have. And so the host, understanding that, proactively gives them stuff that they're not going to ask for. And the guest is supposed to say, no, I don't want any more, when actually they want more because they don't want to inconvenience the host. So when these two cultures come into contact with each other, then both parties feel offended. You understand? I feel offended that someone's put something on my plate that I don't want, and that I don't want to eat, and I don't know what to do with it, and it's prasadam, and I don't want to disrespect the prasadam, but I don't want to weigh 300 pounds, and it's like, I don't know what to do with this. And the host feels put off that I'm asking them for, hey, can I have this? Can I have this? Like, who are you? Why are you acting this way? So maybe some of you remember I came through here with my grandson Devesha a couple years ago. So we were going from one culture to the other. And I said, are you interested in studying? First he wasn't, and then after a while he said, I really would like to study this. So I got him a book called The Culture Map. And I would really, really suggest that everybody who unless you're in a country in the movement where you only have people from your country there, we have some places like that. We have some temples where the only people visiting that temple are from that area. But if you're dealing with international people, you might want to also understand international cultures and how people deal with different things. Because often, what I'm thinking is a character flaw in the other devotee, often is a cultural difference. And I remember clearly when I was in Detroit, so we got a new GBC, who was also GBC in London, and he brought Britishers to run the temple. So most of the devotees in the temple were American, and the managers were all British. And, it was not favorable culturally. I remember some of the managers saying to me, you Americans are all so rude. And the Americans would say, those Brits, they're all duplicitous. It was a cultural clash, but we were looking at it as character faults. They weren't character faults. They were different ways of trying to show exactly the same thing. Everybody was trying to be respectful. Everybody was trying to be serving. But the way that that's done in different cultures can be radically different. And these things are imbibed in us when we're like 2 and 3 years old. And they're so deep in us that we don't think they're cultural. We think they're the way that things are supposed to be done. And the biggest problem I run into is when people say, well, such and such is Vaishnava culture. And they'll say, is Vaishnava culture Indian culture? And then which Indian culture, Bengali or Tamil Nadu? Which are also not the same. I would not go to people in Tamil Nadu and say, you all have to act like Bengalis. That would be like going to Texas and telling people you all have to act like people in California. It wouldn't work at all. So even in India, there's different cultures, there's different ways of doing things. Different things have different meanings. So another way that we can be careful we don't offend devotees in our very, very international culture is to give people some slack, you know. I once had a devotee come up to me and say, Urmila, I never liked you until I realized, oh, she's from New York. Oh, that's why she acts like that. You follow? So that's also very important, not to become complacent. Is that all right?
Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu.
It's a study of cultural anomalies within international organizations. It's
Yes.
actually a discipline.
It actually is a discipline.
Yeah, because it's so important, because we all come from so
Yes.
many disparate locations, and then
Yes.
we bump into each other and we discover, ooh, we're not the same.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also interesting, you know, until very recently in human history, people didn't move around so much. I mean, I know I'm old, but I'm not that old. I'm not like 200 years old. And when I was a kid, my sister, who was 18 when I was born, when I was a year old, she studied overseas and she got married there and she stayed there. We couldn't call her. There were no phones in the 50s overseas. You know, we had to write a letter. And I remember we got a big tape recorder. My father got one for us and one for her, and we would make tape recordings and then mail them to her, and then she and her husband would listen to them, and then they'd make a recording and send it back to us. I remember my grandmother traveling overseas by ship. I remember going to my sister's wedding over transatlantic in a propeller plane. It was very common formerly that people lived their whole life in the same house as their father and grandfather and great-grandfather, and you often didn't see or interact with people that were different from you culturally. So that was true in human society until very, very recently. And one of the problems we face in the modern world is that different cultures are different. I mean, a very, very simple example, if you're running a business in Japan, you're expected to make decisions by executive order. And if you don't do that, you're going to be seen as a weak leader. If you're in Denmark and you do that, you're going to be seen as a despot. You have to make decisions through consensus and discussion. And I read about this man he was an executive in Denmark, and he was so happy that he could ride his bike to work. Then he moved to one of the company's offices in Japan and started riding his bike to work, and they said, you're one of the executive officers, you can't ride your bike to work. It'll make the whole company lose face that one of our directors is riding a bicycle. The company will look bad. So yeah, with international business, it's something that they study. It's a discipline. Studying and Sri Prahlad, who teaches now in New York, he gives classes on the differences in international culture. So it's something that I do think that we should have some awareness of. If we're dealing with somebody from a different culture, and I tell this to people with intercultural marriages also. I said, be careful that you don't attribute cultural differences to character problems, because they may not be. It may be, and these things are very deeply ingrained in us. It's very difficult to change these kind of things. If we're going to talk about what is Vaishnava culture, then I think we would have to turn to things in the scripture, and we look at things like always offering obeisances to a saintly person. That's a Vaishnava culture. That's not something from a particular place. So the plan is for me to leave tomorrow, so I want to thank you all for your hospitality. One of the things I enjoy most about the Melbourne temple is how well attended your Mangal Artik is, and especially how many children are at the morning program. So you set a wonderful example in this regard, something I know Srila Prabhupada is very, very happy with, and how you're really engaging the children in Mahaprabhu's mission. I see the children taking regular responsibility of service. So it's something just absolutely wonderful. It's I feel one of the highlights in the Hare Krishna movement that you exemplify here in Melbourne. So thank you very much. Again, anything good in this class is from Srila Prabhupada and Bhagiratta, whose verse it was today, and anything bad in this class is from me, so please take the good and leave aside the bad. Thank you.